Today we're going to multiply using distributive property. Some of the first things we need to go over are some vocabulary. So we have distribute. Distribute means to divide up or give out something. So we're going to be dividing up our problems here, or one of the factors, in order to make it easier to solve by using distributive property. Distributive property, it means multiplying a sum by a number is the same as multiplying each addend by the number and then adding the products. So in order to really understand that, we need to know what an addend is. An addend is a number that you add to another number, which would be another addend, which then equals a sum. And a product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So we have a factor times a factor equals a product. So an example of distributive property can be seen right here. We have 4 times 12, which is the same as saying 4 times 6 plus 4 times 6. And I got the 6's from this 12. I divided 12 by 2. And I know that 12 or 6 plus 6 equals 12. So 4 times 6 is going to equal 24, and 4 times 6 once again is 24. If we add those two together, we are going to get our 48, which is the same thing as 4 times 12 is 48. So as from that little simple example there, we can see how using distributive property is a little bit easier to solve problems. On this next example here, we have a 2 times 36. And I'm going to take my 36 here and I'm going to underline it. And now 2 is a very simple problem, or very simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide up 36 into smaller numbers that might be easier to multiply by. So I'm going to think about 2 times 36, and the number's 36. I could divide it up into 30 plus 6, or I could divide it up into, let's say I only know up to my tens in multiplication. So I have a 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 6. Okay, so I'm going to solve this using our second choice right here, our 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 6. And I'm going to draw a model to kind of show what exactly I'm doing. So I'm going to draw us a long rectangle here. And I'm going to have a line there. I have, as you see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So I'm just going to divide this rectangle in 4 sections. So now I have 4 sections of my rectangle, and I'm going to put in there my 2 on the side here, because that is what I'm multiplying by. Right here is my 2, and then I have my 36. So across the top, I need it to add up to 36. So I'm going to put a 10 here, and a 10 here, and a 10 here, and a 6 there. Now, inside this box here, I'm going to write what 10 times 2 is. Now I know that 10 times 2 is 20, so we're going to put a 20 there. And once again, 10 times 2 is 20, and 10 times 2 is 20, and then 2 times 6 is 12. So now I can find my answer really easily just by adding my 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 12. And we're going to add that up. So we have a 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is going to be a 2. And we have a 2 plus 2 is 4. Plus 2 is 6 with a 1. And we get a 72. So my answer to 2 times 36 here is 72. So I'm just going to write a 72 up there. And that is one example of how we use distributive property to solve a multiplication equation. On our next example here, we have 7 times 13. So once again, I'm going to take my 13 there, and I'm going to divide it up. So I'm going to think I can do 10 plus 3. I could do 5 plus 5 plus 3. I could do 6 plus 7. I could do pretty much anything here. Now when I draw my model, I want to make sure that I have a rectangle, and my number that I am multiplying by, my factor right here, my 7 needs to go right here. So I'm going to put my 7 right there, and then anything across the top needs to add up to 13. So I could do 10 and 3. I'm just going to stick to the 10 and 3 right here because it's very simple and it's easy, and I know what 7 times 10 is, and I know what 7 times 3 is. So I'm going to just divide this up here. My 10 is going to go up top, my 3 off to the side there. And so then I am looking at my 7 times 10. Now, I wasn't sure what 7 times 10 was, I could be 7 times 1 is 7, and then I have 1 0 there, so I can put in this 0. However, I do know it's 7 times 10 is 70. 7 times 3 is then 21. And if we add 70 plus 21, we're going to get a 0 plus 1 is 1, and a 7 plus 2 is 9. So we get our answer of 91. So 91 would be our answer of 7 times 13 equals 91. On our last example here, it looks really big and it looks very complicated, and it looks like it might be something pretty hard to do. However, if we use distributive property, we can separate this out and we can do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out some numbers that add up together. Now, easiest possible way to do this is just to look at it by value. So expanded form. If we take expanded form, we have a 600 plus 70 plus 8. And I can do that, or I could separate it out and I could say, well, 600 is like 200, or is 2 times 3 is 6, so we could do a 200 plus a 200 plus a 200 plus 70 and plus 8. Or I could divide it up many different ways, any way I want to do it, as long as my sum of whatever I'm adding it up here equals 678. I can multiply it by the number, my factor here, or 6 in this case, and come up with my answer. So, heck, I'm just going to go ahead and do the 200 plus 200 plus 200 plus 70 plus 8. And so I'm going to draw my rectangle, and my rectangle is going to be pretty big in this case. So I'm going to draw a large rectangle here as my model. And I'm going to put a 6 there. And I'm going to divide this up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. So 5 sections there. And our first one here is going to be 200 and 200 and 200 and 70 and 8. And now I'm going to take my 6 right here and I'm going to multiply it by 200. Now 6 times 200 would be a lot if we didn't know our zeros. Because we know multiplying with zeros, all we're doing is adding the zeros on the end. We're going to take our 6 and we're going to multiply it by 2. 6 times 2 is 12. And then because we have 2 zeros there, we're just going to put in our 2 zeros there. So 6 times 200 once again is 1200. And 6 times 200 once again is 1200. Now 6 times 7 is 42, 1 0 there, so we get 420, and 6 times 8 is 48. Now my next objective is to go ahead and add these all up together. So I'm going to just do this right here. I'm going to take my 8 in my ones column, and notice I have zeros in all my ones columns, so I'm just going to write down my 8 down here. Just going to write down my 8 down here. So then I'm going to take my tens column, and I have a 4 there, plus 2 there. That gives me 6, and the rest are all zeros. So a 6 in my tens column. Then I'm going to go to my hundreds column. I have a 4 right there, and I have a 2 there. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Plus 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. So we're going to put our 0 there, and we're going to carry our 1, and I'm just going to put that 1 up on top of that thousands place over there. So then we're going to go to our thousands place, and we have a 1 plus a 1, which is 2, plus a 1, which is 3, plus our final 1, which is 4. So we get 4,068. So we're going to write that up here. 4,068, or 4,068. And that is our answer to 6 times 678 using distributive property.